All right, in news that's breaking this minute, in fact, now Bhutan has issued an official demarche and a diplomatic protest to China on China's attempt to declare Bhutanese wildlife sanctuary along their border as a disputed territory. The demarche was a follow-up to protests earlier against Beijing's attempts to make a non-dispute, in fact, into a dispute. Ashish Singh, Strategic Affairs Editor, is with us for more details on this story. Ashish, fill us in. Take us through these details coming in.
Would say as far as the strategic affairs and the foreign affairs aspects are concerned, this is one historic moment in the recent history where we see Bhutan issuing a demarche to China. Now, this is the specific diplomatic protest that has been launched by Bhutan against Beijing. Now, what we can confirm to our viewers is there is a specific reason. Remember, last week, there was a claim from the Chinese side as far as the Bhutanese territory, which has never been a disputed area between the two countries. And this is specific to a wildlife sanctuary, which is on the Bhutanese side. When you have these kind of claims being made by the Chinese side, the Bhutanese government was left with no other option than to issue a protest and demarche on their Bhutanese wildlife sanctuary, which is at the border between the two countries, but has never been an issue of dispute between the two countries. In this specific regard, at the 58th Global Environment Facility Council, which was held recently, the Chinese member raised objection to the Sakteng Wildlife Sanctuary project and argued that it was a disputed area between China and Bhutan. This was for the first time when Chinese claimed some kind of territory issue with the Sakteng Wildlife Sanctuary, and quickly after that, the Bhutanese government issued a demarche and to the Chinese ambassador, and at the same time, they have called the diplomatic Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials to register the protest. And this, as we speak, has just been completed a few hours ago. This certainly will help India as well in the larger picture, if you see. And it also shows to Beijing that if you can use Nepal against India, then obviously India will not shy away from pushing Bhutan forward against Beijing.
Okay, and that's a valid point. In fact, also let me bring in some of our guests on that story. We're clearly, of course, seeing now Professor Nalapat, territorial aggression vis-a-vis Bhutan as well now by China. So it's not just India, it's not just a hostile takeover in Nepal as well, which interestingly is being protested by some as to why only has surrendered their land to the Chinese. But now we're learning, in fact, even in Bhutan, a demarche has now been issued and a diplomatic protest to China over China's attempt to declare a Bhutanese wildlife sanctuary as a disputed territory.
Well, I'd like to say that the Chinese seem to be a bit behind on technology. From the 1920s, you will remember that there's been, for example, skyscrapers. So the extent of land does not matter. You build up and you build tall and you build in a wonderful way. Japan, a small country, for a very long time had an economy bigger than China. Great Britain had an economy much bigger than India at one time. Of course, now we have caught up and overtaken them. I mean, for some reason, the Chinese seem to believe that territory is what matters. If that were the case, Russia would be far more important than it today is. There's a lot of territory, but much less influence in the world than say, India. So I would only like to say, I simply can't understand this kind of aggression. And I think what it's doing is to bring various countries together so that next time an aggression happens anywhere, it will be challenged everywhere. I can tell you very frankly, there has to be collective security and there has to be collective will and collective action. We cannot look at this problem in silos. Okay, you have the Himalayan situation, India will take care, will do that or whatever. You have a situation in Taiwan Straits, somebody will take care. You have a situation in South China Sea, no. I think a clear alliance has got to be formed, and as NewsX has been saying for a long time, an Indo-Pacific Charter. And this alliance must make it absolutely clear that any ally that is attacked. It's an attack on the entire alliance, and all across the periphery there has to be countermeasure. The only way of stopping this kind of rampaging is to give a clear indication that there'll be united and collective action. So far, the PLA has got away with it because action has been limited to certain countries, individual countries. Big players like the United States have not come in, but I think it's high time now the PLA is stopped in its tracks.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.